guys, I'm Nate from Fusion Motor Company. I'm here to show you some carbon fiber repairs today. I'm filling in for Yoel. He's probably out driving a cool car or something. So today I'm gonna show you guys a little bit about how we do carbon fiber repairs. This is a McLaren 765 LT part. We'll show you what this looked like before. And then the afters here. So this was a piece you can see that was broken off and chipped. You can see the orange that was on here. And obviously on a diffuser, this is a commonly scratched and scuffed on a low sports car. You come out of a steep driveway, this is something that gets damaged. A lot of these parts on a McLaren or a Ferrari can be very expensive, so it makes more sense to repair this than it does to buy a new one. So on this, getting into the process, first they cut out the damaged section. And then they'll build it up with an adhesive, like a panel bond, and they'll sand that down into shape. So you can imagine if this corner's missing, they would build that up and then make sure the shape perfectly matched. Then they'll have to lay carbon fiber over that, put the resin on top, and then there's multiple steps to doing a finishing. So at that point, they have resin on top of carbon fiber. They'll put top coat and then clear coat after that. So there's lots of sanding steps in the way, tons of labor. So these repair jobs, it's funny, like if you had a really cheap part that came in, you know, like a fiberglass with just one layer of carbon fiber would be your cheapest carbon fiber part. This could be something like an eBay lip that you bought, probably not worth repairing. The labor hours that you would have in that would exceed the cost of the original part. But on something like a McLaren part, a Ferrari part, way easier to repair. Financially, it makes sense. You could imagine the amount of hours in a guy making this look like brand new. I'll show you too when we flip this. There was an additional crack. There was multiple areas on this that were damaged. On this side, and this is the only visible part that you'll be able to see that was repaired. Everything else looks like original. They had to lay another strip of carbon fiber over this. This had a crack all the way through it. They add the resin in for strength, and that should be a great repair. This isn't something that will ever crack again. Same with on the other side. You'll never know that this was repaired. Recently we did a Ferrari, an Aston Martin, a Range Rover, and now a McLaren. So we're really rounding all the high-end cars off on these repairs lately. Additionally, they had to match this McLaren orange, so that was fun, trying to figure out the exact match for the orange to do the pinstripes on here. It turned out great. I couldn't tell. I know I saw this piece before the repair. I saw the damage, but I didn't remember when it was laying on the table. They told me to try and see where it was repaired. I can't tell. Also, I wanted to show you guys a little bit about the weaves. I talked about matching the paint, but every manufacturer has a specific weave. There's hundreds of different weaves out there. They have different uses depending on the weave, depending on the layup. There's a lot, I'm going into like the basics here. I mean, we could get like deep in the weeds on this stuff, but I'll just talk about the different types of materials and more so looks than I won't get into the engineering side of things on this. So on this, we had to get this specific weave. And like I said, every manufacturer, Ferrari has their own weave that they use, McLaren, Aston Martin, and then there's your typical like 2x2 that we use. And I'll show you some stuff over here. So these little cars that Jaime laid up, they're like our little sample cars, kind of like normally you use these for paint. He makes these out of carbon fiber. Pure Kevlar. So Kevlar is great for impact. So a lot of times you'll see on wheel tubs, on seat backs, bulletproof vests. Not that we're making those, we're making car parts. You'll see Kevlar used because of its impact resistance. I think this is more like a Ferrari weave. You can see the difference here between like your typical weave and then your Ferrari weave. It's a beautiful blue. Everyone that comes in loves this. It's very deep. Reminds me of something that you'd see on like a Kona's egg or something with the depth of the blue. Red. I think this was just fiberglass. Jaimi's gonna have to fill me in on that one. I can't remember this one. This is the 50/50 Kevlar and carbon. We've done body kits in this. This looks really cool. I've seen a lot of old school seats done in this before, like on old BMWs and stuff like that, and I love this material. It almost looks green in some scenarios, and then kind of a goldish yellow in other. UV protection, if you don't put a clear on this right away or lay this up, it does change over time. Like if you were just to lay this material out in the sun or something, or even under lights, this material would drastically change colors. So if you're laying up like a body kit that was going to be exposed, you'd want this whole thing to be laid up at one time. This is the forged carbon, commonly used in like Lamborghinis and some aftermarket body kits. A lot of times this is used in a scenario where it might be really difficult to line up all the weaves. You'd have to do a lot of patterns. A little bit easier to use. It's like chop strand almost, but also a lot of times you want to use pressure in this. So if you're making a structural part, the entire part would be put under pressure. So a little bit different than like laying up something like this with a V-cut. Just the process is different. The look is different also. I think it's really cool. I mean, it reminds me of like marble or something. You can see how many different crazy, I mean, there's literally thousands of different materials out there, but a lot of these have other materials in them, shiny things and things. This is more for looks than something that would be structural. You know, this would be, it's still strong and could be used in those applications, but a lot of this is more looks based. So I wanted to briefly touch on our different processes too. So we don't do a lot of wet layup. Wet layup would be similar to making fiberglass, where you'd lay this down, you would have a paintbrush, and you'd be dipping it in the resin, and you would be laying it on wet. On carbon fiber, you still have to bag that afterwards. So that's a little bit different than doing fiberglass, but that's something that's like the lowest end of doing carbon fiber, and your results aren't as pretty. On this is on the higher end. This is pre-preg. So you can see this comes, resin is on both sides of this, and this already has the resin in it. So typically, there's a lot of different types of pre-preg now, but typically this is kept in a refrigerator or a freezer. It makes it last longer. Some of it can last quite a while outside, but it's getting too deep here. I won't get into that too much. But this is your highest end. On a Formula One car, you're using pre-preg. And then this would be what we would use to do infusion. You can see here's an infused part that's laid up. This is a roof rack for an off-road Porsche. And there's big differences between pre-preg and infusion, and being that the molds need to be made specifically for which application you're using. So this one, you can see the difference here. You have an in and out on the hoses, and you have a vacuum pot. The term infusion is it's pulling the resin in here. And of course, with making carbon fiber parts, you have material like this, which is totally pliable. And then when you put resin and bake the resin, now you have a stiff, rigid part. So it's funny, you have a liquid and you have a soft material, and then you make this rigid part from them by baking them. So the vacuum gets all the air bubbles out. So you can see the bag here. And on here, this is a pre-preg part. So different, you see all we have is vacuum here, because the resin is already built into the sheet that it comes with. So this is as high end as you can go. The mold needs to be made for it. Bakes at a higher temperature. So ultimately, it just depends on the application. If you were going infusion or you were going pre-preg, might depend on the temperatures that the part's getting to. A lot of times on hoods, I prefer pre-preg. Infusion's okay also, but something where you have headers that the heat's coming up, this would be the way to go. If you're building a Formula One car, definitely go pre-preg. Well, that's a little bit of information about our repair process and our build process on doing carbon fiber. If you guys want to check out more videos, we have a couple more videos on carbon fiber on our channel. And thanks for watching.